It is on Bhagavad Pada as prakaraṇagranthakāraḥ, bhagavān prakaraṇagranthakāraḥ. Prakaraṇagrantham here basically means introductory text. Whatever we discussed in Bhashyam, whatever has been sung mellifluously through Sangeetam in the Stotram, the same Tatparyam is preserved in prakaraṇagrantham like Vivekacūḍāmaṇi. If you look at Bhagavan's prakaraṇagrantha, in fact, one thing we should all wonder is if you take Stotram like Govinda Ashtakam, Satya Jnanandam, that's how it is. Then Goshta Prāṅana Lingana Lolam Anayasam. So one first line will be on the Swarupa Lakshanam of Narayana as Atma. Next line will say that Narayana himself is going and playing in the Goduli. So rendu level Swami is communicating in all his kritis. The Tattvam is always seen. Similarly, if you take Dakshinamurti Stotram, is it Stotram or is it Vedanta Shastra Grantham? See the depth of Dakshinamurti Stotram, right? Lot of Tattvams are there. Śrī Śwami, who is a Vartikakara, has written Manasallasa Vartikam on Dakshinamurti. In that, he has gone to the extent of bringing in many aspects of Shaivam and everything is brought is all under the ambit of Vedanta. So, his Bhagavan's and Acharya's Stotram are not just Stotram, sometimes they are also becomes Hetu for Sravanam, Mannam, Nididhyasana. The same audience for whom Swami wrote the Stotram is the same audience for whom Swami wrote prakaraṇagrantha. So Vivekacūḍāmaṇi is being taught by many acharyas in Shankara Sampradaya to many of the common audience. If you go to whether Chinmaya Mission or Divine Life Society, Swami Shivananda or Harsha Vidya, Swami Paramānanda gives lectures on Vivekacūḍāmaṇi, and it is no holds bar. Everybody can do Sravanam of Vivekacūḍāmaṇi and understand the Tatparyam and get the benefits. The idea is Brahma Vidya, it is Setu for Mukti, Shanti. We can't say it is it's not for everybody, right? When COVID vaccine came, it is not for everybody. It won't work like that. And everybody wants also. We talked about this. Why should be Sankara Jayanthi? Every day should be Sankara Jayanthi because atyanta, duḥkha, nivṛtti, paramānanda, sukha, prāpti is something for every day, right? So with that bhavam, I will hand off to Ramachandran and Karthik, who will have a discussion format. We have requested them to have a discussion. The focus is on Vivekacūḍāmaṇi. With that, it's again everything today is sample only, but the beauty is when it comes to immortality, even a sample is enough. Otherwise, sample may not be enough. Amrita, the nunipul menjalo, amritam, right? Even little bit is more than enough. Kanika Prita. Okay, to both of you.
Thank you so much for that, Eashwar. Namaskaram to all the Asti Mahajanas who are present here today. This is good enough. Yeah. So, namaskarams to everybody. I know through the course of this morning, Anna has been giving us a beautiful introduction to Bhagavan as a Bhashyakara. Adhikāritvam gave a fantastic overview of Bhagavan as Stotrakara. But we are going to touch upon a different dimension of Bhagavad Pada, right? Of him creating a large volume of prakaraṇagranthas, right? And when we think about prakaraṇagranthas, Vivekacūḍāmaṇi, like Anna spoke about, often gets highlighted at the top. And I've always been very, very curious to find out why. So, with that being said, we'll dive deep into that hopefully today to some extent. So the first question that comes to my mind is, what is Vivekacūḍāmaṇi? Because we've all heard the name, we've all been exposed to it in some ways, in varying different formats, in varying satsangams. But can you please bring us all on the same page?
Absolutely, I would love to. But before I start, I want to offer my namaskars to my gurus who are sitting in the back here. So, with your blessing, I attempt to talk about Vivekacūḍāmaṇi. Let me start with the shlokam, the very first shlokam of Vivekacūḍāmaṇi, which is Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tam Agocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Tam Pranatosmyam, or Sadgurum Pranatosmyam. So that is the first shloka. I just wanted to start with that. So coming back to your question, what is Vivekacūḍāmaṇi? Like Eashwarji alluded to earlier in the introductory talk, Vivekacūḍāmaṇi is an introductory text. it's also introductory talks, so the text is also introductory. It's an introductory text to Vedanta. It's like a physics and chemistry guide that we've used in our 12th grade. For people, if you remember your guides for that we used to prepare for our public exams, right? The only difference there is for a namesake we call it a guide, but here Vivekacūḍāmaṇi is actually a guide where the Acharya himself is guiding us step by step by step. It's a very, very, very lucid introductory text where the language is extremely simple. As you will see, the language is very, very simple. The logic in it is flawless. Again, Eashwarji referred to it. When Acharya talks, one should listen to how beautifully he puts forth his arguments. So similarly, throughout Vivekacūḍāmaṇi, you will see there is no place where the logic is at risk of falling over. It's flawless. And the pace in which the Acharya explains is unhurried. What I mean by that is Vivekacūḍāmaṇi also has about 580 shlokas. So the pace is really unhurried. To sum it up, today being a Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day to everyone here. So today being Mother's Day, a mother offers the same food to her children who are of different ages in different ways. For the 10-year-old, she might leave it on a plate, although some 10-year-olds today might not. But for a 10-year-old, she will leave it on a plate. For a 3-year-old, she might mash it, add tons of ghee, and then offer it, and she might feed it. But for the 3-month-old, she will consume it, convert it to her own milk, and then she'll feed it, right? So likewise, Acharya, with the same Matruvatsalyam, with the same compassion of a mother, he takes the sara, essence of Vedanta, and then he gives it as bhashya, as prakaraṇagranthas like Vivekacūḍāmaṇi, or as stotrams, which, like Ajit Mahodaya explained, also contain the very same seed that is present in all three of them.
Thank you for so much for that, Swami. You've only piqued my interest here, and I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody else here as well. So, for a brief moment, let me sort of represent all the adhikas who are present here today, and assume the role of a student who is interested in Atma Vichara.
Please consider me also.
So, as that student, why should I read Vivekacūḍāmaṇi?
Yeah, it's a great question. In fact, if you guys have watched the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? He's asking me the last question so that he can get the $1 million and go away, right? Why should I reach? So he's asking for the param or the prayojanam. So what is the param? Again, going back to Eashwarji's talk, the prayojanam or the param of reading Vivekacūḍāmaṇi is atyanta duḥkha nivṛtti and paramānanda sukha prāpti. We want an endless end to sorrow, and we want absolute shanti and peace and bliss and happiness in however adjective we choose to refer to it in. Why should we read Vivekacūḍāmaṇi, right? So Bhagavad says, see, there are three things that are really, really rare and which can happen only with Deva Anugraham. So they are Manushyatvam, Mumukshutvam, and Mahapurusha Samshrayaha. So we all are, in this group here, we all are have taken the human birth, and we all have a need for shanti and dukkha nivṛtti. So mumukshutvam represents the ultimate state of that, right? So we all have mumukshutvam, we all are human, and mahapurusha samshrayaha. So most of us have been blessed to be in the company of our gurus, or in the company of satsangam, which are non-different, right? So we have all three. So why not make use of this opportunity now and here? Kind of think of it as, if you are the genie inside the bottle, inside the lamp, right? How often does Aladdin come across, right? Once every few thousand years, right? So for us, this birth and this set of circumstances represents Aladdin coming to us and ready to rub. So let's make the most use of it. So that is the reason why I think Acharya says we should read Vivekacūḍāmaṇi. And also, like Eashwarji said, the way to mukti is cannot be through karma. Like infinite cannot be attained through the finite means. So Bhagavad Pada throughout Vivekacūḍāmaṇi says, you have to do Atma Vichara. That is the only way to go. For if you seek mukti, and how to get there is explained step by step in Vivekacūḍāmaṇi, and that is why this makes for a great read.
Fantastic. And I'm actually looking at Bhagavad Pada's, I'm looking at him, all I can feel is his kāruṇyam. And just to sort of, paraphrase you a little bit. So, rare is to have this Manushya Janma. Even rarer is to have this intense desire for liberation. And even rarer is to actually find ourselves in Mahapurusha Satsanga, right? Did I get that correctly?
Yeah, even Avayar says the same. Aridu aridu manadarai pirattal aridu. So she starts with the same thing. It is really, really rare to be born as human.
So you also touched upon mukti, right? Most of the time, I sort of feel like these concepts feel very lofty, right? Mukti, or the moment we think about mukti, the first image that comes to our mind is this feels like it belongs in the domain of sannyasins, right? So that brings me to the next question. Am I, when I include everybody in that, are we all qualified to read Vivekacūḍāmaṇi?
See, the motivation that Bhagavad Pada says that is atyanta duḥkha nivṛtti and paramānanda sukha prāpti. So that is the motivation for reading a prakaraṇagrantha like Vivekacūḍāmaṇi. I think we all are sufficiently motivated from that point of view. Right? So it is for all of us, have no doubt. You mentioned some lofty concepts. I'm going to introduce a few more loftier concepts. Bhagavad Pada talks about something that is called as sadhana chatushtayam. So what is this? What are the requirements for someone who's needing mukti? So he talks about 4. That is Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatsampati, and Mumukshutvam. So these are the 4 requirements that Bhagavad Pada puts. Just 4, not much, just 4. Right? Like a Russian doll, each of these things kind of subsumes the one next to it. So we'll just briefly talk about it, so that the goal is to just create an awareness for some of us. And we'll start with the first one. So the first one is Viveka. What is Viveka? Vivekam is the discrimination. Discrimination between that which is real and that which is unreal. So that is the first step. In fact, that Viveka and Vairagya are given by Bhagavad Pada as the very, very first precursory requirements for mukti. So Viveka is discrimination, which is knowing the real and knowing that which is unreal. Okay, with that discrimination, what follows? What follows is Vairagya. Because Vairagya is nothing but dispassion. So dispassion because all along you were chasing the wrong thing. Now you know what the right thing to chase after is. So that dispassion is termed as Vairagya. Okay, now we have Viveka and now you have Vairagya. So what follows? What is the state of our mind? Is this results, just having these two results in a state called Shama. So what is Shama? Shama is the tranquility of the mind. Because now the vacillations of the mind come down. It is not that it is absolutely still. It's still vacillating, but the amplitude of those waves is much smaller than it was before. So that is Shama. Now, what happens with a tranquil mind? We are better able to control our senses. So we're able to take those senses and then put them and park them away in their own places. So that parking away of those senses is termed as Dhamma. Okay, now we have a tranquil mind, we have parked our senses. Now what happens is, now we stop depending on the external world for validation. So everything that we need, we realize, is within ourselves. So dwelling upon that contentment is Uparati. So we've had Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, Dhamma, and Uparati. So we have had the discrimination, the dispassion, a tranquil mind, senses are in their place, and we are content within ourselves. Now in this stage, what happens is, what dawns or what strengthens is Shraddha. Shraddha is, like Eashwar said earlier, Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Sadbuddhi Avataranam. So that conviction in Shastra and Guru Vakya is Shraddha. So, why is it both Shastra and Guru Vakya? Is Shastra alone not sufficient? Right? Shastra is the yukti. It provides a yukti for us. In fact, this is a definition that comes later in Vivekacūḍāmaṇi itself. So Shastra provides the yukti, while Guru's Vakya provides the pramāna or the proof. So to put it in simpler terms, if you were to dismiss, if you have a tendency to dismiss Shastra as theoretical, right? Your Guru is there as a living proof to say, hey, I went through everything that Shastra said, and I know all of that is true because I have experienced every phalam that Shastra says will come through. In fact, my own Guru has told me these exact same words. He said, நான் சாஸ்திரத்தில் இருக்கிற எல்லாத்தையும் பார்த்துருக்கேன், சாஸ்திரம் சொல்லியிருக்கிற மாதிரி எல்லாமே பண்ணியிருக்கேன், சாஸ்திரம் சொல்லியிருக்கிற பலன் அத்தனையும் வந்திருக்கு. These were I followed the Shastra and I've gotten the result. Literally, verbatim, these were the words that my own Guru told me. Right? So when that happens, that becomes Shraddha, that becomes an unshakable faith. Right? So with that Shraddha having done, now what happens is our mind is like a finely tuned machinery or an absolutely crisp, crystal clear lens. What do? We take that lens and we take our energy and then we focus it on the one thing, which is the Paramatma Vastu. So that becomes Samadhana. So that is, in short, the Shat Sampatis. Now, having gone through all of this, the Viveka, Vairagya and Samadhi Shat Sampatis, is that sufficient? That is only a glimpse of what Mukti is. So at this stage, the Shishya will get a glimpse of what Mukti is. Now he's like a cat that has tasted milk for the first time, except that this cat has tasted the milk of Amrita. Now it is going to come back again and again and again, right? So that Tīvra Mumuksha, so the Mumukshitvam, the need to experience that intensifies over time. So Mumukshitvam grows in strength. So that Tīvra Mumukshitva is also a requirement, or the fourth requirement for Jivan Mukti. So together, all four are called as Sadhana Chatushtayam. But then Bhagavad says, all of this is there, but there's one more thing that you need. One more magic ingredient, and that is Guru Prasadam. So he says, Prasadena Guroho Seyam Suyete Palam. He says, without Guru Prasadam, you will not get the Palam, or you will get the Palam only with Guru Prasadam. So those are the Sishya Lakshanas.
Just for my own benefit, I'm going to summarize it much shortly for myself.
Sure.
So it is Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti and Mumukshitvam. These are the Sishya Lakshanas that one needs to qualify themselves to be able to do Atma Vichara.
Yeah. Along with Guru Prasada.
Along with Guru Prasada. But when I put a magnifying lens on it, right, suddenly it feels like a long list of requirements that I need to go through in order to qualify myself as the ideal Sishya, right? So suddenly I have a two-part question here based on what you just mentioned. One is, in this lifetime, can I develop all of these lakshanas in order to attain mukti, right? And when I think about it a little bit louder, as astikas, right? We and Anna briefly touched upon it earlier, which is, we have our own spiritual practices that we do on a daily basis. Our Nitya Karmas, the Sandhya Vandanam, the Puja, the Mantra Upasana, the Nritya Upasana, the Sangeeta Seva. We have manifold paths that take us towards Bhagavān, right? And the common emotion that we attach to all of these upasanas is our intense bhakti towards Bhagavān, right? So my second question is bhakti alone not sufficient?
That's a great question. I'll answer your second question first. So, what do we generally know as bhakti? Bhakti, as we know it, is devotion towards God, right? Or love for God. So that is how we generally define bhakti, right? How does Bhagavad say? Does he differ from it? No, he says, Moksha Samagriyam to Bhakti Reva Giris. He says, if you want moksha, the best amongst all available methods is bhakti. So bhakti is the greatest. Okay. But then he also adds it a second definition in the next line. He says, Swaswarupa Anusandhanam Bhakti iti abhidhiyate. So he says, doing that Atma Vichara is also defined as bhakti. So he gives us this definition. I'm going to again refer back to Eashwarji's introduction. Thank you, Eashwarji, for making that introduction. Where he says, the bhakti that Vedanta talks about doesn't negate the bhakti as we know it, but it only augments it. So it only adds more. It takes it to a whole new level, right? What does Shruti say? Let's think about that for a minute, right? Shruti says, Antarbahishcha tatsarvam vyapya narayanostatah, right? So the Narayana that we pray to, whether as Krishna, as Gitacharya, or as Venkatarama Swami, as in the Archavataras in the temple here, right? That is the Narayana outside. But then Shruti says, he is also inside, within, antarbahishcha tatsarvam vyapya narayana. So he is everywhere, right? So the Svasvarupa Anusandhanam, the Atmavicharam that we do, doesn't take you away from the regular bhakti that we know of, right? It only adds to it, it only augments to it. Earlier, when we started this off, we started with the shlokam from Lalita Sahasranamam. It says, Arunam Karunatarangitakshim Dhrita Pasham Pushpabana Chapam Animadvihi Avratam Mayukaihi Aham Ityeva Vibhaviye Bhavani. Right? Now let's split that shlokam into two parts. Starting with Arunam Karunata. So what is the first part? Where they say Ammavaru is, or Ambad is reddish in color. She has 4 arms. She has got the 4 weapons, the Pasha, Ankusha, the Ikshudanda, and then the flower arrows, right? So it talks about all of that. But how does that shloka end? It ends saying, Aham Ityeva Vibhavaye Bhavani. So this Ammavaru, I worship as my own Aham Padartha, or my own Aham Vritti. So it takes that bhakti and then points it inwards, right? Swasvarupa Anusandhanam Bhakti iti abhidhiyate. Right? So the bhakti is not much different. Now because this was such a long answer, I actually forgot your first question. What was it?
Is sadhana chatushtayam requirement? Can I develop all of those qualifications at the same time?
So the sadhana chatushtayam, if you think about it, is not just something for moksha. Okay, if we start developing it, we will end up being a better person than we were when we started with. I'll tell you a little anecdote from my own guru's example. One of my guru's disciple, she was a Shrividya Upasaki, and then after years, one day she asked her guru with a beaming smile and said, "Do you see any change in me?" And then my Gurunatha answered, "You should not ask me, you should ask the people around you." And then it so happened that her daughter was passing by. So he said, "Ask your daughter." And then she asked her daughter. And then the daughter answered, "No, I don't see any change. If at all, it has only become worse." So that way, so he said, "See, that is your answer that is the answer to your question." So coming back to this, right, the Shatsampatis, the Viveka Vairagya Shatsampatis, if you think about it, any successful endeavor will have all of those qualities. So there is actually also a practical application if you want Iha Bhoga, or if you want the Paravastu also, right? So even if we don't get mukti within this, becoming aware of it and starting to work on it, we will end up hopefully as a better person than when we started with.
Thank you so much for that, Swami. Now I'm going to, I want to briefly go back a little bit because when we spoke about sadhana chatushtayam, you mentioned that Bhagavad Pada places a greater emphasis on one more aspect, right, for the Shishya Lakshana, which is approaching a guru, getting his Guru Prasadam, in addition to these other qualifications, right? So please give us an insight on the role of a guru when it comes to doing Atma Vichara.
Absolutely. Bhagavad Pada actually places the highest import, or gives the highest weightage to Guru Prasadam, in addition to the self-effort. So these are the two things that Bhagavad really places on a very, very high pedestal, of which, of course, Guru is the highest. And this was also the most endearing part of Vivekacūḍāmaṇi. This entire text, entire Vivekacūḍāmaṇi is in the form of a Guru-śiṣya conversation, right? Bhagavad says, Upasidet Gurun Prajñam Yasmat Bandha Vimokshanam. So your Bandha Vimokshanam, your Mukti will happen only when you approach a Guru, right? Only the master can wish the genie of Aladdin to become free, right? So he says, you need to go approach a master. The qualities of a Guru, it's a beautiful list of qualities that Bhagavad talks about. So the first one is, he must be a Shrotriya, one who has read the Upanishads, one who's in tune with the Shruti. So Shrotriya, and one who has examined the Atma Tattva using the yuktis provided by Shruti. So he is Shrotriya. And then the second one is Brahmanishta. Having done so, he must have reached the phalam, which is Brahmanishta. So he must be ever abiding in the Atma Tattvam. He must be ever abiding in Brahman, Brahmanishta. The third one is Avrijanaha. So he has to be sinless, right? Because of the next requirement, which is Akama Hataha. He's not ended by Kama. So because he is desireless, he's also sinless. And then it says, Nir Indana Iva Analaha. Indana means fuel. So Nir Indanam, without fuel, he's like a fire without fuel. Because a fire and a fuel, they have a dependency. So the fire depends on the fuel. But the Guru, the Brahmanishta, is not dependent on anything. He is Svaprakasha. So he is Nirindana Iva Analaha. And the last and the most important one for us is Ahetuka Daya Sindhu. His kāruṇyam is without any reason. The only reason for his kāruṇyam is to help us cross the ocean of samsara. So Ahetuka Daya Sindhu. So these are the qualities of a Guru.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. I mean, you've piqued my curiosity on this particular point. And you also mentioned that most of Vivekacūḍāmaṇi is structured in the form of a Guru-śiṣya samvada, right? So let me, for the benefit of this satsangam, right, say that, you've set this beautiful stage. Sishya has Sishya Lakshanam, Guru has Guru Lakshanam, who is a Shrotriya and a Brahmanishta, and the Sishya is approaching the Guru, right? Please tell us how the Sishya is approaching the Guru and what happens.
Sure. The Sishya's approach is actually a master class in humility. So it's one of the most beautiful shlokams in Vivekacūḍāmaṇi. Also partly because I have not read the rest 500 of them. But the shlokam starts with the Sishya says Swamin Namaste. So the first one is Swami. He refers to Guru as Swami. So Swami is he who has Swam. Swam means property. So Swami is the owner of that property. So by offering yourself by referring to the Guru as Swami, the Sishya says, I am yours. So that is Sharanagati. I'm going to remind us, bring back the shlokam from Ramayana, where Rama says, Sakrideva prapannaya tavasmiti yachate abhayam sarvabhutevyo dadami etat pratam mama. Sakrideva prapannaya. Even if you do a little Sharanagati, I will give you abhayadanam. So here the Sishya is going for the 6. He says Swamini, and then he says Namaste. Even in Telugu, the word for property is Sommu, right? So it comes from Swam, so property. So Swamin Namaste, Nataloka Bandhu. So you are the Bandhu for people who come and prostrate to you. Right? And then he says Karunya Sindhu. You are the ocean of mercy, but where am I? Patitam Bhavabdav. I am in this ocean of samsara. You are in that ocean, I am in this ocean. So, Mam Uddhara, please lift me up. But to lift one up, there has to be a rope. What is the rope? Rijvya, Ati Karunya Kataksha Drishtya. Just your glance that is filled with compassion, that becomes the rope that lifts me up from this ocean and transfers me over to that ocean. And then he says, Mrityoho Pahi. That is his request. please save me from death. And Shruti says, what is death? Death is ajnana. Death is not mrityu as we know it, as Yamadharma, as not the physical death, but the ajnana itself is death. So save me from that mrityu. Aham janena kinchit kripayamanga. I don't know anything, please protect me. So this is how the Shishya approaches the Guru.
Amazing. So when I think about it, right, this Shishya on one hand is exhibiting extreme shraddha towards the Guru in the way he's approaching him and the knowledge he is about to receive. And on the other hand, the Guru is already declaring that he is a Vidwan, right? So fantastic master lesson for all of us, right? In how to develop shraddha and vinayam towards Guru. So I particularly feel very primed for the next scene that you're about to take us through, right? So what is the upadesham that the Guru gives to the student?
See, the Guru, to a Shishya who approaches like this and talks this way, the Guru does not give upadesham yet. Okay? What he first does is, his very first word is Ma Bhishta Vidvan. He says, don't be afraid. So the first thing that the Guru does is he gives abhayadana. Okay, because that's the first thing that you have to, when someone is coming to your doors saying that 4 people are coming to kill me, what you do, you let them in and then close the door and you remove that fear. He says, now you are safe. Okay, right? So that's the first thing that the Guru does, Ma Bhaishta. Then the second word he uses is Vidwan. But the Upadesham is not even begun yet. So why does the Guru refer to him as a Vidwan? Because the Shishya has known that the world or the samsara is full of sorrow, and he knows that this is something that one needs to escape from. So because he knows that, even if he doesn't know anything else, he knows this much. That itself, that awareness itself makes him a Vidwan. So he says, Ma Bhaishta Vidwan. And then he says, Nasti Apayaha, there is no more danger. Because you have come to me, there is no more danger. Asti Upayaha, there is a way for you to cross this samsara. What is the way? And this is why we go back to the definition of Shraddha. Shastrasya Guru Vakya. So look at the Guru Vakyam here. He says, Asti Upayaha, I will show you the way with which the yatis of before have crossed the ocean of samsara. He says, he doesn't say, I'm going to invent something new. This is not my way. But he says, Asti Upayaha, but that which has been shown by the rishis of before, that way I will show to you, because that is the way I took and I crossed the samsara, and now, so I know that way works, so I will take you along the same way. So, Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya, they are non-different. The Guru Vakyam will be in absolute 100% congruence with the Shastra. And then in the next shloka, the Guru says, you are a Paramatman. He says, Ajnana Yoga Paramatmanaha Tava. So he says, you are a Paramatman. Even before beginning all of this, like in Guru Gita, there is a line that says, Guru Upadeshana Muktoham iti bhavet. The moment, because you've gotten the Guru's Upadesha, you should consider yourself as a Mukta. Right? So in accordance with that, the Guru says here, he calls the Shishya as Paramatman. You are the Paramatman, you just don't know it. Come, I will show you the way.
Brilliant. So, as a Shishya, in the role of that Shishya, right? For me, I suddenly seem to have a lot of questions in my head, and I'm trying to channel all of those questions towards my Guru. And Anna pointed about one of those things earlier as well, right? Too many questions. Sometimes those questions can be completely ridiculous as well. But the Guru will always exhibit patience towards answering those questions. So, does the Samvadam also continue in the same fashion, where the student is continuously asking questions?
Yeah. See, in Gita it says Pariprashnena Sevaya, right? So you have to ask questions. So here too, the Shishya asks a set of 7 questions. So what are they? The first one is, what is bondage? What is bandha or what is bondage? How did it arise? How does it continue? how is one released from it? What is anatman? What is paramatman? And how do I differentiate between the two? So this is a set of 7 questions. As soon as the Shishya asks these 7 questions, the Guru says, you are, because of you, your entire kulam has become pavitram. You are krita dhanyosi and krita krityosi. So he says, he lauds the Shishya for asking such questions. And he says, he highlights again the importance of self-effort, where he says, bandha mokshana kartaraha swasmad anya na kaschana. If you want bandha mochana, if you want mukti, no one else can help you. I can show you the way, but you have to walk the path. I can bring the horse to the water, but the horse has to drink it, right? He says, in this, the Guru says, see, if you have a load on your head, someone can help you unload it. But if you're hungry, you have to eat. No one else can help you with that, right? So self-effort. So the Shishya asks the questions, the Guru lauds them, and then he says, now the real work begins, and you have to do all the work. No one else can help you in this.
Beautiful, right? Think about it, 580 plus verses, but somehow I'm only reminded of Bhagavad Pada's kāruṇyam once again, where somehow he's making Shishya distill all of his questions into 7 simple questions, like you just pointed out, right? And in those 7 questions, he's giving all the answers that allows the Shishya to do Atma Vicharam on his own. I cannot comprehend the kāruṇyam of Bhagavad Pada there. All I can think about it is like, it's like Bhagavad Pada has taken this greatest medicine that we all need in this Manushya Janma, and he has fed it to us in these 7 simple questions, in those small pills. And somehow, after consuming all of that, right, it doesn't feel like, that medicine feels bitter. At the end of it, we feel like, we are left with this everlasting sweetness of Atma Jnana, right? So, Vande Guru Parampara. I have only one last question. So, another VC question to RC. Is Vivekacūḍāmaṇi,
So easy peasy.
is Vivekacūḍāmaṇi enough to get started with Atma Vichara?
Yeah. For this, fortunately, I don't have to answer, because the Mahasannidhana of Sringeri Chandrasekhara Bharati Swami has said, if you want mukti, Vivekacūḍāmaṇi alone is enough. So I think that there's no further qualification needed for that.
Amazing, Swami. I think, personally for me, I kind of suddenly feel like, Vivekacūḍāmaṇi is not something that I cannot approach towards, right? I feel like I can just pick up the book and start reading it right away. So I'm assuming that's the takeaway that you have for us, or would you like to add something more on top of that?
Yeah, principally there are 3 takeaways from this, right? So 1, Vivekacūḍāmaṇi is for all of us, because we all seek atyanta duḥkha nivṛtti and paramānanda sukha prāpti. So that is 1. Second thing is, in all the Sanskritam verses that we discussed, there would hardly be maybe 10 to 15% of the words that we didn't know about. Every other term is something that we have already known, we have been familiar with. So the entire text is full of padams just like this. Just going through the text, and even with a simple translation, the text should sound fairly similar to all of us, to most of us in fact. So that is the second takeaway, that it is not a text that we have to put away, but in keeping with the theme, it is something that we can take and read every single day, so that we can think of Bhagavad Pada every single day. So that is the second one. And then the third one is the punchline for Vivekacūḍāmaṇi is Brahma Satyam Jaganmithya. That is the Viveka. That is the title of the book as well. Just having that awareness and continuing along that path will slowly but surely take us towards mukti, right? Coming back to, I just want to finish it off with again the Aladdin analogy, right? Even the genie, which is all powerful and can grant all the wishes only for one thing, which is mukti, freedom. So with that, I thank Eashwar for the opportunity and thank you all for listening.
Thank you everyone for patiently listening to this Sambhavan. And I know you have a Vivekacūḍāmaṇi copy in your home, so I'm coming after that.
Yeah, once again, thank you so much, Shri Karthik Mama and Sri Ramachandran Mama. Your discussion actually inspired me to at least learn a few shlokams from Vivekacūḍāmaṇi.